What's your worst story from the throw him in the pool, he'll learn how to swim parenting style? 2 days after I graduated high school, I came home to an empty house, all my stuff in a U-Haul because my mom and stepdad moved without me. I have been financially independent ever since, but a heads up would have been nice. Edit, I woke up so grateful for all the love this post is getting. To make some clarifications. My real dad was not involved in this situation, he was on the other side of the country. I am still close with him, but he is very low income, so he could not help me in this. I went no contact with my mom for about a year, but she weaseled her was back in. I think I see her in person once every 2 years, and I do not acknowledge my stepfather exists. I have been considering going no contact with my mom again recently. My stepdad would get hammered and make me drive him home. I was 14 and couldn't drive stick, and he was like, "You'll figure it out." This happened maybe 3 times. Edit, since everyone keeps asking, yes, I got home safe every time. Yes, I drive stick like a champ now. Everything from 3 on a tree to an unsprung 3 puck, I'll get you home smile. This actual thing. I was a lifeguard as high schooler. Some parent did this to their 5-year-old. Parent thought the kid was fine, because he wasn't splashing around, he was bobbing up and down with his arms going straight up, and straight out. That actually means they're drowning. Had to jump in and grab the kid, who had swallowed significant amounts of water, and call an ambulance to check the kid out. Parent didn't want us to call the ambulance, but we told him it was the ambulance, or the police, because what he did could be considered child endangerment. Dad was losing his crap, screaming at me, a 17-year-old girl. Owner of the pool saw this, and he, former Navy dude, got up in the guy's face. Parent was banned from the pool for life. To this day, I'm convinced the guy was completely hammered. When I was around 11 or 12, 2 kids from the neighborhood got into a street fight. Kid number 1 clearly got the best of kid number 2, and kid number 2 was crying and went home. Should have been end of story. Kid number 2's parents met him at his front door and sent him back out there to continue to fight. I'm not sure if it was about honor or what, but it was painful to watch. I actually used to be a swim teacher in college, teaching private lessons in people's backyards because of parents who had thrown their kids into the pool to sink or swim. It was usually moms calling me for help because they heard from a friend that I was able to teach their kid and get them to like the water again in about a month or less. One kid, he was 7, I had to sit with him on the pool deck the whole first lesson and bring buckets of water to him. His dad had dunked him multiple times and insisted that his son would just figure it out eventually because that's how he learned. Needless to say, he was never home when I was there. The mom had me come while dad was at work. 4 weeks later she had me come later in the afternoon so he would come home towards the end of the lesson. His dad saw his son swimming and cried happy tears. He had no idea I'd been there 3 days a week for a month. My favorite student was a 70-year-old man who wanted to do a triathlon but never learned to swim because his dad threw him in as a child. It took about 3 months total, a lot of hand-holding on the steps and shallow end, but he finally achieved his goal and I got to cheer him on at the finish line. I still remember how each of my students clung to my arms and clawed at my neck in their first lessons. I never dunked or forced anyone out of their comfort zone. My lessons had to be customized for each student to keep it fun and relaxing. The trauma in their eyes was haunting though. It stayed with me, and I never force anything on my kids that they aren't ready to do. It's about trust, not force. They didn't want to teach me to tie my shoes, because my mom said I had to learn that myself, so should you. Just walk it off. My dad, when I developed a big nasty cyst on my toe when my mom was away on a stressful trip. She was not pleased to come back and have to immediately drive me to the hospital. It got to the point where I took one step on it and almost passed out. He apologized afterward. Got a sandwich from a really good sandwich place and I forgave him. Now I laugh about it. Edit, it was Maria's sub shop in Scituate, MA, USA. It's really good. Also, I guess this is worth bringing up. My dad is the son of a man who attempted to walk off a gangrenous leg infection that very same year. R.I.P. Grandpa. Oh, I laugh about that too. I was always a picky eater growing up. One time my mom sat me down with a small bowl of almonds and told me I couldn't get up out of my seat until I finished it. I insisted that I hated them and they were making my mouth itch. She thought I was just being difficult. I just started to swallow the almonds like pills because my mouth was so itchy from chewing on them. A couple years later I saw an allergist and discovered I was allergic to tree nuts. 7 years old. Had an asthma attack at our camp in the middle of the night. At that time, treatment for an attack was a nebulizer machine that required electricity, which we didn't have at our camp. My parents kept telling me that I just had to calm down and breathe better so the attack would go away on its own. They only intervened hours later because they couldn't sleep because of all the noise I was making as I choked and gasped for air. We drove 3 hours back to our house, passing multiple hospitals along the way because they were embarrassed that I was in such bad shape and blamed me for just not breathing properly. Fun times. ETA, I've been trying to reply to everyone's questions, but there's a lot of them, so I'll just answer the most common ones here. I still have asthma, but it has been well managed for years now. I take Zenhale every day and Ventolin as needed. I've been no contact with my mother for over a decade. She's a narcissist who not only emotionally abused me but encouraged my older brother to do so as well. This led to him physically and sexually abusing me, and when I eventually confronted her on this, she said it was my fault for being such a bad woman. I cut her out of my life and that's made a world of difference for my mental health. Obviously no contact with brother either. I am still in contact with my father, they divorced in my early 20s. We aren't close, but I still find enough value in the relationship to keep talking to him. He isn't actively cruel like my mother was, just lost in his own world, I guess you could say. I feel sorry for him that he hasn't managed to overcome his own demons the way that I have. Overall, I am happy and healthy now. I have a lovely husband, and we've created a good life for ourselves. I do have PTSD from the years of abuse I lived through, but therapy and proper medication have helped tremendously. Thank you to everyone for your kind words. They mean a lot. My younger cousin, 4 at the time, was a climber and always needed help getting down. His dad told his mom to leave him. He'll either learn how to get down himself or stop climbing. Cousin ended up climbing onto the roof, fell off and got impaled on a fence pole. One very expensive trip to the ER and he now has a cool scar on his thigh. Edit, he did not stop climbing, he just got better ways to get off the roof. My older sister taught me how to ride a bicycle by putting me on the seat of a full-size bike at the top of our downward sloping driveway and giving me a good push, sending me flying down the driveway and jettisoning me into the street. I got the hang of it pretty quickly. My stepmom walked us, me, sister, brother 10 to 12, deep into the woods and left us there to learn survival skills. We thought we were all out on a hike, then she distracted us, and ran away. We wandered into camp hours later. We knew how to get back but searched for hours worried that something had happened to her. She was drinking margaritas and smirking. My mom's whole parenting style was sink or swim, but funny enough, it's when my mom tossed me in the pool. The summer between 1st and 2nd grade my family moved somewhere with a pool. My mom was adamant that I had learned to swim as a baby, so she bought floaties for my younger sister and refused to buy any for me because I already knew how to swim and was too big for floaties. When I refused to get into any part of the pool I couldn't walk in, my mom called me from outside the pool and promptly grabbed me and tossed me into the 6-foot end. And surprise! I didn't know how to swim. I remember splashing twice, hearing my mom yell at me to stop panicking. Then I went under and tried swimming to the surface like I'd seen in movies and eventually got my head a bit above water, coughed out a bunch of water and started screaming for help before I went under again. My mom told me to stop making a scene and swim towards the edge. I made it to the edge and couldn't pull myself out of the pool, so my mom yelled at me to swim to the shallow end. When I tried to grab onto the edge to just pull myself to the shallow ends, my mom kept taking my fingers off the edge and yelling for me to stop playing and just swim. When I finally got to the shallow part, my mom and family just went, "See, you still remember how to swim. You never forget."